Everybody, welcome Rebecca Orlov to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Hello. This is very cool. It's so nice to see you all. This is a pretty big group of people on a Wednesday. Lorraine, thank you so much for having me. I am Rebecca Orlov, and I'm here to talk about how to create a memorable brand. So I'll talk with you about my background and all that good stuff. I did create a very cool dynamic deck, motion graphics, moving images, because we do that. But this is a PowerPoint. We're good.
So that's your on.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm happy to send over this moving deck when we're done, or reach out to me anytime. But so if there's any static images, which there are, that are stuck, it was really pretty when I made it for you last time. All right, well, I'll just stand and hang out. So yes, Lorraine, thank you so much for having me and Tech Alley Henderson. I am going to speak with you today about building your memorable brand. And I love that word, memorable, because it's so much more than just a thing, a product or service that you are creating. And I am the owner of Epic Playdate, which we'll get into in a moment. So why your brand story is everything, especially for startups. A lot of startups, I've worked in many startups. I have friends who are building startups. A lot of times, as you know, the product is number one. That MVP is so important. Funding, there's all different hats you're wearing. One of those hats, my hope is that it is, what is your brand story? And building it along the way. You know, it's not something where you're gonna train for a marathon and then show up a week before with like flip-flops on. You know, you gotta make sure you're training and getting everything ready as you move. And my hope tonight is I'll take you through just a quick little presentation and give you inspiration and insight in how to accomplish that, or some steps to take that on if you're not there yet. Again, thank you, Lorraine, for having me. This was so cool, it was moving. I'm just kidding. All right, we're gonna get through a lot today, but it's short and sweet because I want you all to really retain this and enjoy it as well. Awesome. This is also moving. It's very cool. So Epic Playdate, we are a creative brand consultancy, and we work with ambitious companies and leaders. And so we consider ourselves your creative co-conspirator. We really collaborate and partner with our clients on creating the best brand experiences, visual stories for their product or service. A bit about us, as I share, we're a creative brand consultancy, and we really sit at the intersection of storytelling, design, and cultural insight. We partner with ambitious brands to uncover their core purpose and bring it to life through compelling visual experiences that make a lasting impact. And our approach always blends strategic creativity with emerging trends, ensuring that every narrative we craft resonates deeply with its intended audience and drives meaningful engagement. And then, as we say to our clients, as your creative co-conspirators, we transform bold ideas into unforgettable brand stories. This moved, of course, it was really cool. Motion graphics, but these are a bit of our services. We really focus on brand strategy at our root, at our core, which is affectionately known as our why. And I think we're talking about that tonight as well. We do brand strategy, visual identities by way of your entire logo creative system. So logo design, secondary marks, color palette, typeface, art direction, mood boards. We really lift up your entire brand North Star. We do custom Shopify and Squarespace websites, 3D product designs for Shopify customers. We help you turn your static 2D product into 3D GLB files so that you can then have your site visitors enjoy spinning around from all different angles. We're moving more into web, AR, and XR campaigns for email, dynamic decks, presentations, and we also do just fractional embedded advising for clients as well. So that's a little bit about us. A little about myself. I am the founder of Epic Playdate. We are 4 years old. Prior to Epic Playdate, I worked in advertising for 20 years in Los Angeles and New York City. I produced TV commercials back then in the late 1900s. I started on radio. And yes, I had a boombox and tape cassettes. That's how we would listen to our voiceover talent. They'd be like, we want to hear number 12. I had to fast forward to number 12. We got it done. And then content. I've been a judge for the Drum Awards, which is like an ad week, in the Metaverse and Digital Experiences category. I was the director of marketing for Teachers Health Trust, which is the health plan for all the educators of Clark County. That was a really nice experience. I was a very early blogger in 2007 and 8. I was an editor for Apartment Therapy. So if you know of that world, I was in that world early. And my most important job is being a mom to a very preteen Gen Alpha daughter. We are deep in 5th grade, 11. So if you know what that is, I'll meet you after for advice. All right, cool. Well, let's get into it. So what is a brand story and why do you need one? All it really is, it's actually quite simple if you think about it. It's the emotional world that your brand invites people into. There's an emotionality layered throughout an entire brand story. And my hope is that your product or service evokes this as well. So it's not just your about page or your tagline. It's really that energy that people feel when they discover you or interact, engage, and connect with you. And by you, it could be your brand, product, or service, or your customers, word of mouth, whatever that is, at any touch point, they feel a certain way. And it's really what makes someone say that this is for me. So it's over the conversion or the transaction. Like, I'm thirsty, I need a drink. We have so many choices, that paradox of choice, that what would make one product stand out from another? And yes, of course, it's through branding, but we're talking more about the brand story, that pillar, that brand vision. And it's really, subconsciously, we now call it a vibe. So we've kind of moved into this world of what's called vibe, fandom, living, and marketing. It's so much more than just, as I shared, a product or service. So when you're building out your product or service, even if it's something that's in the cloud or it's AI-based, there's going to be a customer, a person, a human who's going to be enjoying and needing your product or service uniquely. How do you connect with them? So for startups, it's truly your fastest path to trust, clarity, and connection. These are all things that equals conversion, ultimately, really building loyalty. So how do you want your customers, clients, fans to feel? There has to be some type of trust there, and of course, connection. And so we can talk about what that is. So of course, here are 3 really simple, straightforward ways. My hope is that this presentation is clear. So if you are struggling or haven't done this work yet, you can really do this work after going through this deck. So it's truly how people feel you. It's kind of an interesting shift on, well, it's just a product, it's just a service. It's so much more than that. First of all, your brand story is the emotional energy that someone feels the first second that they meet you. And so what is an actionable step for that you can take? Well, you can ask a friend or a trusted person to look at your homepage, your Instagram feed, really anything that is a visual story for your brand, product, or service. And you can ask them, what are the first 3 words that come to mind? And ideally, that's what we call an emotional signal. And that's something you can really stick to. If you're like, I don't know which direction to go from a brand standpoint, a story standpoint, you're collecting essentially market research, and that can help guide you, an emotional signal. It's your fastest trust builder. So of course, people do not have time. They trust what feels honest. They trust what feels real and is relevant to their life now. So what is the action step that you can take? Write down what problem you are solving for your ideal customer, and then explain it like you would explain to a friend. At the end of the day, everyone who is working is selling a product or a service that is targeted towards an ideal customer or fan that solves their challenge uniquely. Always layered with emotionality, always layered with that brand story. And then, of course, your brand story will set the tone for everything that you're doing. So you're working hard, heads down on your MVP, you're building, you're trying to raise capital, all these important things. But you have to have a really, really defined story so that your people can find you. And not just find you, but stay with you. So the overview of here is your visuals, your voice, and the vibe all come from the story, the narrative that you're telling. And by the way, this narrative is living and breathing and fluid. It's on every touch point, every channel, every bridge community, Discord, all these kind of under the hood WhatsApps, these Slacks that are popping up. It's in traditional, press and earned media. It's in all these places as well. But of course, we want to make sure that the same story is being told that makes sense to your target. So what is the action step you can do? Choose these 3 feelings that your brand should always evoke For example, bold, caring, and curious, and then filter everything through these. So if you want to begin doing an exercise like this is a really simple way to do it, and then trust your gut and see how you feel about it. So we're going to go through one example, and I'm sure you're wondering who I'm going to be giving you an example of. But a great brand story does not just explain your product or service. It really doesn't do that at all, actually. It really will show people what is possible for them. 99.9, we'll just say 100% of the people care what is in it for them. How does this help me? Yes, they're solving something through a product or service, but it evokes an emotion around that. So it should make them feel seen, understood, and emotionally connected. And that is what turns a curious site visitor into a loyal customer and a new fan. So I'm going to give you an example. If Starbucks, whether you like their coffee or not, what if they were a startup today? How would they position? How would they do this? Well, let's pretend. So their brand story could start with emotion, not at all coffee beans. That's what they're selling. They're selling coffee. But they're not just selling coffee. They're giving people a place to pause, to connect, and to feel human again, let's say in the middle of a chaotic day. Well, what is this an actual step for founders? How can you shift this? Start with the emotional moment that your product creates, not the feature set. So as you're building, it's incredibly important to do all this testing and keep going and iterating. But you always have to measure as you go, what is the emotional connection that this product will have? Brand world equals warm, intentional, inclusive. The vibe matters more than the logo. Maybe it's earthy lighting, your name on the cup, calming music. If you've ever been to Starbucks, all those things are there. Every detail will reinforce the story of belonging. What is an actual step for founders? Build a sensory experience around your story. What does it feel like to engage with you, whether it's a product or service? What does it actually feel like? And then finally, from transaction to transformation, it's not just about caffeine. It's about, quote, my space, my ritual, my people. Starbucks would market the ritual and the identity shift, not just the drink. They have done a fantastic job of reimagining the third space, which is not home or school. It's where people want to go and relax and feel comfortable and feel included. They've created a ritual, habit, right, behavior, and emotionality. So what is the actual step for founders on this level? Ask yourself, how does my product or service help someone become who they want to be? And this could be cloud-based, financial, AI, automated, whatever it is. You are helping someone solve something. You know, there is some type of statistic, I'm sure it has already changed again, it changes all the time. It's like 99% of people purchase on emotion alone. So stick with that story. It's so much more, people will call it a narrative. It is living, breathing 24/7 at all times, whether you're listening to it or other people are. So the entire payoff, let's just say, if Starbucks was a startup, Starbucks did not become iconic because of coffee. They became iconic because they built a story that people could actually live inside of, figuratively and almost literally. We spent a lot of our time there. And they've really transformed how people spend time in third spaces. So speaking of the short emotionality, the 99% of people who purchase, 1.2 seconds is the amount of time someone will spend on your visual story, whether it is a website, a social channel, a piece of collateral. I can't do driving by out of home, but yes, maybe even just looking at a billboard before they decide to stay or abandon you. How do you make it memorable and how do you connect in that such a short time? Audiences will decide in 1.2 seconds to stay or leave. Your story must land fast and emotionally. So branding. It equals the instant signal of relevance and resonance for someone. There are archetypes in branding. Of course, your logo, your assets, your pieces, colorways, font styles, all these things have and should be designed for your target audience. You want to have a connection starting just there and then bring them along for a ride. And then of course for startups, this moments could be make or break because you don't have brand awareness yet. You're still going to market. And so this is such a huge part. So as you're building out your product now, my hope is you're building all of this along the way. And all of the story will iterate as you iterate your product too. You get feedback from customers and clients and fans, this worked, this didn't. Stories and narratives can do the same thing too. And what's so great is you can be agile and shift your narrative at any time because of social media and how quick these hits are these days. You have an opportunity to keep going, keep moving. So brand story does not equal branding at all. We do all of this work at Epic Playdate, but they're very different. Branding, of course, your logo, your color palette, typeface, all these choices, how your brand looks and appears and shows up across platforms and across channels. How does it syndicate? The visuals on your site, your packaging, your social feed, a surface level signal of professionalism and polish, branding. These are the pieces, the assets, the touch points of your brand. And then of course your brand story wraps like a big hug around it. Why your brand exists and who is it for. This is the story. The emotional journey that you are inviting people into. They're part of your world. I also consider this world building, which is a word I'm going to use from now on the rest of this presentation. What transformation or solution do you offer? And the deeper reason your audience feels connection to you. It could be, this really neat product that you have, Alex, which is automating using AI agents. There is an emotional connection, and it's touching someone at that point and then showing up for them still. And so we're almost done too. I know there's a lot of copy on these slides, but the core, the heart of your brand could be your secret weapon if you look at it through this lens. World building, fandom. We were talking about this earlier on my table. If you want to consider your customer, your client, almost as a fan, they enter your world. They want to be inside of it. They want to be part of something. This is a point of view and a mindset that I hope you consider if you're looking for something like this. Fandom will create emotional stickiness. And if you don't know what stickiness is, it's someone who wants to keep, is now loyal and connected to your product or service. They've stuck around. Fans buy, share, and evangelize to each other. It's called word of mouth. You don't need a massive audience at all. You need the right one. And I tell every single potential client, I do a consult with all potential clients, not everyone is your client, and that's a great thing. You want to really hone in on who your target audience is, who your sub-tiers are as well, and how you can work directly and provide that story directly for them and to them. For startups that build fandoms during the MVP phase, you will get traction faster. Now, I don't have a hard and fast KPI or metric for this, but I'm telling you, if you build your experience parallel and almost have it woven in, it'll make such more impact to your early adopters, your go-to-market, your beta test, all of it will help as you iterate your product or service. This type of quote market research or these loyal fans or challenges with fans not connecting, they're giving you all the answers and you can easily shift. When you design with early fans in mind, feedback becomes love, not criticism. If you are in any betas at all, you know what I'm talking about. I am in several, and I just love giving feedback because I'm like, how can I help them? They're amazing. So I actually just had a meeting with one of them because they invited me in to further connect with them. I'm working with a company called Infinite Reality. They're in the spatial space. They are promoting 3D websites. Well, of course, I want to offer that for my clients. They're really virtual stores, but I'm learning how to build them, and they're helping me, and they allowed me space into their beta. And I felt connected. I feel connected to them. Not them literally, but to their story, their message, and the way they handled it and treated me felt very warm and kind. Again, love, not criticism. Because, by the way, their sign-on process was terrible. The single sign-on wasn't working, and this transaction got stuck. And I said, hey, this single sign-on wasn't working, and the transaction got stuck. And they were like, let's help. We can help you. And they were just awesome. And so patience, kindness, and I'm here. And now they're like, come on into the beta. I'm like, wow, you guys were great. You're so busy. They're bootstrapping, and they really helped me, and I felt connected to them because of that. And I love their product. It's great. Fandom gives you a built-in beta community. They test, they hype, and they help. And by the way, this type of small beta community could be 20 people in a Discord. It could be a weekly coffee down the street on Water Street. It could be anything you want it to be, as long as you show up, just like you would for your friends in your world, so to speak. You're not just launching a product, you're launching a relationship with your earliest believers. So if you've been in early to any product or service, whether it's an artist you love, a musician, it could be a shoe that you're wearing, you know how you feel when you got there first, and when you're kind of you're the maven, the early adopter. There's an emotional connection there. I'm going to quickly go through these. This is such a great slide. I hope you all grab this. These are really what I call the 8 pillars. These are universal. This is what I use with my own clients. These are the 8 pillars for building a brand story. And I'm going to show you specifically for this presentation, I did the traditional lens and then a world building lens. My hope is that you look at it through a world building lens because life has changed. The marketing funnel has shifted where people and fandom are at the community are at the core. The product is not the core anymore. We know that. Your brand purpose, which is why you exist. Well, through the world building lens, this really is what future are you building, which I think is really a cool mindset. Instead of your target audience, it's who you serve. Now it could be who are you designing this world for? Brand identity is your visual system, or you can look at it as a mood board that fans live inside of. Brand positioning is your market position, where you sit in comparison to others. How would your fans or how do your fans brag about you? That's your positioning, which I think is really, what would people say about you? I love that. Brand values, your principles, or you can look at it as what fans would defend you passionately about. Brand messaging, communication, words equal a vibe, and voice equals a world. I love that. I would go, if you have any questions about that, drop this whole thing into your ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever you're using and build this out more. Your brand story is your narrative, or you can consider it as the emotional arc that fans move through 24/7 all the time. And then your competitor analysis, your SWOT, is your differentiator. I like to be positive, your unique qualifiers, I like to say, your fan-first superpower. So all of this can be done as you're building out your product or service as a startup. And then to wrap it up, a few more things is that the root of your product or service is a challenge that you're solving for a real person, they're your fan. We are no longer on or offline. We are always connected because of our phones, no matter what. And that's a beautiful thing. We can choose to be analog and put things down. So just know that your brand story is living and breathing literally all the time. Brand touch points, which is everywhere that your consumer can find you or where they may be, whether it's a bridge community, social media, in real life, for example. All of this must be emotional and impactful. You have to consider it. Every interaction must align with your story, vision, values, and promise, which is all part of that story build, the brand story build. We believe in building worlds, not just spaces or places. I hope if you take one thing from this 25, 30-minute presentation is that. Build worlds, not spaces. A brand world welcomes everyone and connects emotionally across all platforms, and we design fandom-first brands that spark real connection and timeless energy. This was a really cool motion graphics video of my logo.
Sorry.
No, you're amazing. And yeah, that's it. So let's build some worlds together. And this is how you can find me, Epic Playdate, and we are, stay up here.
Stay where you are. Anyone have any questions?
Can you just go backwards into your contact info?
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, thank you. Hi. So there's a lot, we went through a lot. Okay, there's a lot in there, but I hope it was all digestible and felt good. Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's hard to build a brand. It's almost the worst return on investment. If I want to buy a brand, do you guys offer that kind of service?
Do we sell brands, is your question?
I want to buy a brand.
You want to buy an already established brand. You know what, we don't do that, but funnily enough, I have been told by other people we should do a brand in a box. So maybe we don't offer that. We can help you build one if you want though.
You mentioned how important it is for customers that have an emotional connection to the brand. How can I ensure employees will provide that emotional labor to make sure that the customers have that connection?
That is such a great question. So for employees and or workers and hustlers and everyone grinding, especially at a startup where you're wearing a million hats, it's really about making sure that the team that are evangelizing your brand. Like making sure that you're hiring people that drink your Kool-Aid, so to speak. They want to live and breathe your product or service as much as you do and understand the people that also want to do that. And so, my hope is that you're hiring people that believe in your product and service and want to share it. It's a tough one, though, if people aren't. Hire a great community manager. Yes?
So I've heard world building in mainly the context of literature. Would you consider world building within the field of branding as an art form?
Such a good question. I also have heard world build. The question was world building, and he has heard it in the form of literature. Would that be also considered branding in the world of building a brand? Because of how people behave due to our screens being primary now, TV is tertiary, if anything. Screen computers are secondary. We live in worlds all the time. That doom scroll is a world you're in. Of course, a book, a movie, a show. But I'm talking about world building. Young people and people of any age who are living in games. Fortnite, they're on Twitch, they're watching other people play, they're playing Roblox, whatever they're doing, this is world building because they're hanging out, they're relating. So look at your brand as not just a product or service. It is a 3D functioning experience. It's no longer static. It's not analog. There's a great show called Abstract. If you've ever watched Chef's Table on Netflix, it's a similar style show for design. And they have a set designer, and she does like U2 and like these crazy concerts. And her whole thing is like, gone are the days of like analog or like 2D design. It's like the Beatles. If you don't know the Beatles, I'm sorry, you can look them up. The Beatles. I'm like looking around, I'm like, there might be people in here who don't know the Beatles. The Beatles, and then like the band, and then a screen maybe, or like curtains. Well, she's like, we design in a cube. We design spatially now. So keep your eyes on that. And that's literal worlds that you'll be stepping into, whether it's through AR, XR, but think of it more as a community, living, breathing ecosystem as the world.
Another question over there?
Firstly, thank you so much.
Thank you, that was great.
But my question is, so when it comes to experiential marketing, that aspect of building a world and world building and all of that stuff, do you have, any tips for encouraging like sponsorships and things like that if we're doing like activations? And obviously like, we want free sponsorships, but do you have like any tips for encouraging those brands to work?
Yeah, experiential marketing is prime for all of this because you literally are building worlds. You're building physical spaces that are beautiful, chaotic, fleeting moments of time that someone gets to experience. My recommendation would be to really leverage your AR and XR partners and build them previews, have like more visualization for these potential sponsors and say, we're doing this for you, don a headset, come on in and see what we're doing. Invest in that previs and you'd be surprised. I have a client right now, a hospitality client in town. He's looking at several potential new restaurant experiences, and he stepped into a small room, a boardroom, and all the screens, the whole walls went dark, and they were literally inside like Chinatown, or we're walking around this city, and that company invested in, and graphics and screens so that they could immerse potential clients in spaces. So go the extra step further and do something like that.
You said AR/XR.
Yeah, so AR is augmented reality off your screen, your connected phone. XR is a fully immersed space with the headset. Also VR.
Diana, one more question.
Oh, yes.
Okay, branding is very, very important because I brought my winemaker here today. Where can we find, you're a branding expert, okay? Where can we find your success testimonials?
Oh, I love that. You can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I have lots of really kind, really sweet words there from people I've worked with and peers and colleagues. You can go right to epicplaydate.co. By the way, I did own .com, but then Hyundai took it from me because I let it lapse. So keep your domains, guys. So if you go to epicplaydate.co or find me on LinkedIn, Rebecca Orlov, connect with me. I'm pretty active on that space. I'd love to see you, and reach out if you have any questions. I'm happy to share this with Lorraine, the moving deck, if you want to see it as well.
Okay, and also guys, thank you to SkyVista Consulting. Rebecca has a little pop-up there.
Thank
If you want
you.
to scan the barcode, it'll take you straight to her information on her website. So, Rebecca,
you.
Orlov, thank you so much, Rebecca. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Right, can I? Oh, you can
Yeah, I got you. Thank you.
Okay, let me get out of here.